Hello, I'm here with David Morgan. David Morgan is a widely recognized analyst in the precious metals industry. He consults for hedge funds, high net worth investors, mining companies, bullion dealers. He is the publisher of the Morgan Report on Precious Metals, author of Get the Skinny on Silver Investing, an excellent read for anyone interested in knowing and learning more about silver. He's also a featured speaker at investment conferences all across North America, Europe, and Asia. David, I want to get right into this and just talk about SLV. A lot of people are wondering, they want to get into the silver market. They're just learning about silver. They've read one of your articles, your books, they've come across your website. Zero Hedge, there's so many things and avenues right now that they can learn about silver, and they want to buy it. So the first thing that pops up when you do a Google search is one of the popular search terms is SLV. And we consider you the authority on silver, and we want to just get your opinion. Is it trustworthy? Do you personally trust it? Do you personally own SLV? What are your overall thoughts of SLV?
Well, that's a great question, and I get similar questions thrown at me fairly often. On balance, the SLV, the iShares Silver Trust, was the first silver trust that was initiated. And at that time, and I still have the same opinion of it, I think on balance, the SLV is a good thing. And the reason I believe that is because it's brought silver as an investment to a lot more people that probably never would have considered silver to be an investment before. Having said that, we have to examine what the SLV really is. And the SLV was created as an opportunity for primarily money managers, although the public also can participate, in a vehicle that trades like a stock but holds a commodity. So if you understand what the limitations or the mandates are for a stockbroker, for example, they're only allowed to buy stock. So if someone phoned up a stockbroker and said, I really love the silver market, I really don't want the risk of a mining company, I want to buy silver, he'd have to say, sorry, I can't help you. Well, that whole problem was eliminated back in April 2000, the launching of the SLV. And so it's a good vehicle for primarily, I would say, professionals. However, I consider the SLV to be a primary silver investment. In other words, the mandate of the SLV is to track the price of silver. It's a price tracking mechanism that's settled in cash only. It's not a silver investment. I'm very emphatic about that. So as far as I'm personally concerned, from what I teach, is if you want to own silver, buy silver. Now, if you want to move into the SLV as a hedge or an addition to or some other reason for buying silver on paper, I really don't have a problem with that as long as you understand that it's not a silver investment, it's a silver tracking mechanism. So have I used it? Yes. I have used it as a hedge. I've used it to go short the silver market to protect positions in the past. I can't remember trading it from the long side, although I may have, but I understand what I'm doing, meaning that I don't consider it to be a silver investment. I use it as a vehicle to get in and out of the silver market as the price is moving. One last thing that very few comment on about the SLV is because it is a commodity that trades like a stock, the tax implications are different than it would be for owning a stock alone. And a lot of people don't know this until it's too late. Normally in the stock market in the United States, if you own something for a year and a day, you have a capital gains situation that you have to use your tax advisor to determine what your tax rate is. But in the SLV, since it's considered a commodity and the way that the tax rates on those are calculated, it doesn't matter how long you own it. Short-term or long-term, it's considered at a higher tax rate. So that's something I would want you to check with your own tax advisor. Certainly you don't have to be in the U.S. jurisdiction. It doesn't probably apply to all jurisdictions, I'm not sure. But it's another consideration that people should actually look into. Most people, when they invest in these type of things, read an article by me or many of the commentators now in the silver market, get excited, find the easiest, simplest thing to do. Oh, SLV, oh, it's big, it's liquid, I can get in, I can get out, click their mouse and they're in, without ever having read the prospectus. And I actually don't expect most people to, but I do expect them to educate themselves. I think you should educate yourself before you make any investment.
Now, just to be clear, when it comes to your long-term holdings of silver, you recommend physical silver or something where you're physically storing it. SLV is more for a trade.
That's the way I approach it. That's correct. I mean, on balance, it's a good thing because it's brought the silver market's attention to a lot of people. I use it as a trading or tracking mechanism only. I don't consider it to be a primary silver investment. As far as personally, yes, I own the physical, and I know there's situations where people can. They look at the SLV as an alternative. I think there are better alternatives than that. There is, for an example, there's the Bullion Management Group in Canada that's I consider a holding company. There's a Sprott Physical Silver Trust that I consider a holding company. There's Central Fund of Canada, which I consider to be a holding company. There's some in Europe, such as the Zurich Continental Bank. Again, I call that a holding company. These are companies that absolutely have the physical silver there in a vault, and that silver is, locked up and can be accounted for by an independent auditing authority that proves that the metal that they say they have, they actually have, and it's on a one-on-one basis. There's no, double counting or anything like that going on. I'm not saying there's a great deal of that going on in the SLV, but I'm certain that everything that's accounted for in the SLV isn't all silver. It says so right in the prospectus. There's no magic. That's my opinion. It's a fact. Just read the prospectus and you can determine that for yourself.
Yeah, so that brings a great question. There's a lot of speculation that it's not even backed by any silver. From the research you've done, is there silver behind it? I mean, or is there just no way for us to ever truly know? I mean, is it just not regulated by the right people to know that there's truly silver behind SLV?
Well, the way it's structured is it is structured in a way that there is purportedly silver backing up every share. And I believe that there is certainly a great deal of physical silver that's in the SLV. I just don't know how much of it's encumbered in some way, shape, or form, meaning that you could have a fund manager that owns silver, sends the certificate documentation, and creates a market maker, which means you have 50,000 ounces of silver, and then goes into the market and can buy and sell. So there are situations, I'm sure, where there are silver that's owned by more than one party that's used as a vehicle to become a market maker in the SLV. Is this, throughout the entire thing? Is it that? No. I think the lion's share of the silver that the SLV has documented on their website is truly probably is there, and that it is accounted for one time only. But there is some amount, no one knows how much of it is, again, double, maybe even triple counted. Again, I don't worry too much about it because, again, it's cash settled, so it's not a silver investment, but it's close to a silver investment. But if you want a silver investment and you don't want the physical in your home or your apartment or your travel or your elderly or for a variety of reasons, you don't want the physical, I would, again, look at, a holding company. Again, this doesn't take a lot of research to find one that, that you don't have to agree with me, but that you trust on your own. There's also places where you can buy the physical silver and have it held for you. In fact, you could do that on a COMEX. If you wanted to, you can buy 1,000-ounce bars. You could buy as few as one and as many as you want and have them stored in a COMEX bank. They call them warehouses, but they're actually banks, except for the Delaware Depository isn't really a bank. It is a warehouse. And get the certificates and own it that way, and it's your name on it, and you own it. So there's lots of ways to own physical silver without having to take it to your own possession and own it in your home.
One last question about SLV. Just wanted to get your thoughts on JPMorgan being the custodian for SLV. If you had any thoughts or concerns about that. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation in regards to the fox guarding the hen house metaphor. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
That's a loaded question and a tough one. I really hadn't thought of it that much. I mean, there's a lot of information out on the internet, and JPMorgan is probably undoubtedly one of the major shorts when you look at a specific part of the market. And that would be the short position held by the commercials on the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, that now owns the COMEX, okay? But when know is what their total position is. I was just on Financial Sense News Hour last week. Jeff Christian, myself, somebody else, and Jim Poplava on a roundtable. And the roundtable discussion got to a question similar to that. And Jeff Christian said, "Well, JPMorgan is net neutral. They're not long or short." Now we know they're short on the COMEX, but what we don't know is what are they on the over-the-counter derivatives market that isn't regulated at all. So they could be neutral, as Jeff says. They could be long in London and short in Chicago or New York, and no one would know for certain. The only one that knows is JPMorgan themselves. I believe that they are not net short. I'm not sure that they're neutral. They may be net long. I don't know, but no one knows. So to look at one part of the equation and leave out a bunch of blanks and say this is the way it is, well, that's the way it is on the CME. That's true. But what's the global picture? What's the total picture? The total picture is there's a lot more silver trading that goes on over-the-counter, unregulated, undocumented, that no one really knows what the positions are or who owns them. And that's huge compared to what everyone focuses on, the COMEX. So now that I've done my little rant on that, your question was, am I concerned with JPMorgan being one of the banks that holds the physical silver? Is it the fox guarding the hen house? First of all, what I'm going to tell you is my opinion. So your opinion is just as valid as mine is. If it bothers you in any way, shape, or form, certainly get it out of there and put it in another bank. As far as I'm concerned, having worked in the corporate world for not a very long time, usually they're so big and they're in different compartments that the banking portion, or let me say it more succinctly, the vaulting portion of the JPMorgan Bank probably is a distinct on its own entity within the huge organization and is probably trustworthy. You got a different mandate when you are holding physical silver for somebody and their name on it. So I actually don't have a huge problem with that little bitty microscopic portion of this whole JPMorgan situation, if you will. I'm not trying to defend JPMorgan. I don't like what they do in the futures market. I don't agree with it. But nonetheless, we want to look at the global perspective. We want to look at the total truth, if you will. If you just focus on one part of it, you can make yourself right. But making yourself right doesn't make yourself, full of all the information. And I'm not even claiming I have it. All I am stating is that the market is big, it's global, and there are huge amounts of silver held on paper outside of the COMEX. That's what I want to point out.
David, I've been following your work for a long time. Some people, as you know, are just learning about silver. They're just learning about the silver shortage between supply and demand that's going to happen over the next 10 to 15 years. If someone wants to learn more about your work, find you, how can they do that?
Well, there's several ways. The easiest way, if you can't remember the website, is just Google David Morgan Silver. If you don't put in the silver with my name, you're going to come up to some other websites, so that's one way. The other way is to type in silver-investor.com. That's the website that we have. The other way, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, Silver Guru. Any search term with silver in my name, those are probably the easiest way. We have a website, we have a blog, I have a YouTube channel, I have a Twitter feed, a couple other less important areas on the Internet. A lot of my work has been dispersed around the net. Starting in the early 2000s, I really don't write that much in the public domain anymore. I've always saved my best thinking for our paid members, but I do put out an occasional article or YouTube clip for people to, for educational purposes, of course, and interviews like this, which I like to do, but I don't write as much on the Internet as I did, say, in the previous 10 years.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to FutureMoneyTrends.com subscribers.
Daniel, it's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.